While our attention is pulled in a million different directions, there's a new, great game quietly unfolding in the far north. Today, we're going to unpack a brewing confrontation over Greenland, one that could literally reshape the global balance of power, our technology, and even how we trade.
So, what's the big deal here? Are we really on the brink of a new Cold War? Well, that's the central question in this analysis, and it suggests that what's happening up in the Arctic is way more than just some diplomatic tiff. It's a fundamental shift in the whole geopolitical landscape with some pretty profound consequences for all of us.
Just picture this for a second. It's January 2026. The White House drops an absolute bombshell, declaring Greenland a national security necessity. Now, this isn't just some political jargon. It's a direct, public challenge to Denmark, a key NATO ally, mind you, over its own sovereign territory. It's a huge deal.
Okay, so what in the world could be driving this kind of unprecedented tension? Well, that brings us right to the core of the issue, the absolutely enormous economic prize that the Arctic represents, and exactly why this standoff is happening right now.
According to the analysis, this entire high-stakes conflict boils down to one key idea: resource sovereignty. This is the new global battleground. It's a race to control the essential materials and the trade routes that are going to define the rest of the 21st century.
To really get the stakes here, just look at the global supply chain. Right now, China has a near monopoly on rare earth minerals. We're talking about stuff like neodymium and dysprosium, things you need for the high-performance magnets in electric cars, wind turbines, and basically all our advanced electronics. Greenland, though. Greenland has the potential to completely break that stranglehold, with deposits so huge they could create an entirely new alternative supply chain.
But the prize isn't just what's buried under the ice. The second major factor is that the Arctic itself is melting, and that's rapidly opening up a revolutionary new trade route. The analysis calls it the Northern Silk Road.
And this new shipping route? It's a complete game changer. We're talking about slashing the travel time between major ports in Asia and Europe by a massive 40%. Now, this isn't some minor efficiency gain. This is a total disruption of global trade as we know it.
So, because of its unique location, Greenland is perfectly positioned to become, in the words of the source, the ultimate toll booth for the future of global trade. Think about that. The nation that controls Greenland's waters could basically control access to this incredibly valuable shortcut.
So with these massive economic prizes on the table, how is the United States positioning itself to win this geopolitical chess match? Well, that brings us to the political how, what the source is calling America's strategy for a political checkmate.
The analysis gives the U.S. strategy a pretty interesting name, a Monroe Doctrine 2.0, right? So just like the original doctrine from the 19th century warned European powers to stay out of the Americas, this new version aims to create a dominant U.S. sphere of influence over the entire Arctic. It's about turning Greenland into a strategic fortress to lock down those resources and trade routes.
And a move this big, well, it's going to have immediate and severe consequences. As we see here, it sparks a direct confrontation with a key ally, Denmark, and it creates what the source identifies as the first major crack in the NATO alliance in over 70 years. You can really feel the depth of this diplomatic rift in this quote from Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen, who called the American posture an unprecedented violation. I mean, those aren't just the words of a politician. You can hear a deep, personal sense of betrayal between allies who've stood together for decades. But the fallout from this conflict goes way beyond just Washington and Copenhagen. So for our next section, let's explore the global ripple effects and what the source projects is going to happen next, especially in some key global markets.
The analysis argues that this kind of geopolitical tension, it's a huge flashing signal for investors and for entire global industries. The standoff over Greenland points directly to a few specific sectors that are about to be significantly impacted, for better or for worse.
All right, let's break down the three key sectors this analysis highlights. First, you've got mining. This one's kind of a no-brainer, right? You see companies like Greenland Minerals listed here. The logic is crystal clear. Any firms with exploration rights or the tech to operate in the Arctic are positioned to cash in on those huge rare earth deposits. Second is defense. With a brand new contested strategic zone, companies that specialize in things like Arctic-grade surveillance, naval ships, and cold weather military gear will probably see a big jump in contracts. And finally, currency. The analysis suggests that this kind of instability in NATO could actually drive investors towards the US dollar as a safe haven, which could strengthen it against the euro.
So, after digging into the economics, the politics, and the market fallout, What's the big takeaway here? It's this powerful and honestly kind of surprising idea that in our supposedly digital, borderless world, geography is becoming destiny all over again.
And this statement from the source just crystallizes the entire argument perfectly. Greenland is no longer just a massive island of ice. It's the central bank of the next tech revolution. Wow, I mean, that's a striking way to reframe a part of the world that, for centuries, most of us have just completely overlooked.
And so we end right back where we started, with a big question. In an age of satellites and cyberspace, are we really going back to an era where global power is decided by land, by sea routes, and by physical stuff you can pull out of the ground? The standoff over Greenland seems to suggest the answer might be a definite yes. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Is geography destiny once again?